I'm Caroline Simpkins, a former ballerina turned researcher, and today we're continuing our series on hip anatomy. This time we're zooming in on the soft tissues, the muscles, tendons, and ligaments that make this joint move with such strength, control, and grace. Understanding hip anatomy is especially important for dancers because true turnout, or that external rotation of the leg we see so much in ballet, starts deep in the hip joint, not from twisting the knees or the feet. The shape of your hip socket, the strength of your rotator muscles, and the balance between mobility and stability all determine how much safe rotation you can achieve in your hip. When dancers understand this, turnout becomes not just a position, but an efficient, supported movement pattern that protects the joints and improves technique. Before we get started, if you enjoy learning how science connects to dance, take a quick moment to like, follow, or subscribe to this podcast. It helps us reach more dancers and teachers who love understanding the why behind movement, and you'll never miss a new weekly episode. So let's talk about the hip. The hip is a remarkable structure. It has to be both stable and mobile. The bones give it form, but it's the surrounding soft tissues that create movement. Together, the muscles, tendons, and ligaments allow you to lift your leg into a développé, sustain a beautiful arabesque, or land softly from a grand jeté. Let's start with the muscles, the true engines of motion. More than 20 muscles cross the hip joint, but for dancers, a few key groups do most of the work. First are the hip flexors, which bring your leg forward or lift it up in front of you. Think grand battement or développé. The main hip flexors are the iliopsoas, rectus femoris, and sartorius. The iliopsoas, made up of the psoas major and iliacus, is one of the most powerful and essential muscles for dancers. It connects your lower spine and inner pelvis to the upper femur, and when it contracts, it lifts your leg, bringing the thigh toward the chest. Because it's such a deep muscle, weakness or tightness here can cause that familiar gripping sensation at the front of the hip, a common challenge when working toward higher extensions. The rectus femoris, which is one of your 4 quadriceps muscles in the front of your thigh, is unique because it crosses both the hip and the knee joints. This gives it 2 jobs: extending the knee, like straightening the leg in développé, and flexing the hip, like in a grand battement. Since it spans 2 joints, balance between flexibility and strength is key. If this muscle is too tight, it can pull on the pelvis and affect your alignment or your turnout. If it's too weak, other muscles around that area will overcompensate and cause muscle imbalance. Then there's the sartorius, the longest muscle in your body. It runs diagonally across the thigh from the outer hip to the inner knee, helping to flex, abduct, and externally rotate the hip as well as flex the knee. In ballet, this muscle is active in movements like attitude, retiré, and crossing into fifth position. Its name actually comes from the Latin word for tailor because it helps bring the legs into a cross-legged or tailor-setting position. Together, these hip flexors stabilize, lift, and guide your leg through transitions from plie to releve, from extension to landing a jump. Understanding how they work not only refines technique, but also helps prevent overuse injuries and supports efficient placement through the front of the hips and the thighs. Next up are the hip extensors, which are the muscles that move your leg behind you, as in arabesque or penché. So these work in opposition to the flexors on the front of the leg, creating the balance that makes your movement both powerful and controlled. The primary extensors are the gluteus maximus and the hamstring muscles. The gluteus maximus is your powerhouse, the largest and one of the strongest muscles in your body. It extends and externally rotates the hip, helping you lift your leg behind you or rise from a deep plie. It also provides critical pelvic stability and postural support. When it's not fully engaged, dancers often overuse their lower back or their hamstrings, which can lead to tension or imbalance. The hamstrings, a group of 3 muscles running along the back of the thigh, work with the glutes to extend the hip and also bend the knee. These muscles are active in arabesque, attitude derrière, and nearly every jump or lift of the leg behind the body. But because they cross both the hip and also the knee, they're especially prone to tightness or strain. Tight hamstrings can limit your arabesque height, while overly lengthened ones can make it hard to control a penché. Together, the glutes and hamstrings form what's called the posterior chain, the system that gives dancers propulsion, lift, and dynamic stability. It's what keeps you grounded in releve, powers your sautés, and supports smooth, graceful extensions. Now let's move from front and back to side. The hip abductors and adductors control this movement and are vital for turnout, balance, and pelvic alignment. The abductors, which are the muscles that lift your leg away from the midline, include the gluteus medius, gluteus minimus, and tensor fasciae latae, or TFL for short. The gluteus medius and minimus lie on the outer surface of the pelvis and act as your internal balance system. Whenever you're standing on one leg, they stabilize your hips and prevent tipping. The gluteus medius also assists in rotating the leg outward, contributing to clean turnout. The TFL, found at the front and outer edge of the hip, helps with both abduction and also hip flexion. When it's overactive, which is often due to weakness in the gluteus medius, the TFL can cause tightness at the front of the hips or along the outer thigh, where it connects to the iliotibial band or IT band. On the inner thigh are the adductors, which are the muscles that bring the leg back toward the midline or cross it over into fifth position. These include the adductor longus, brevis, magnus, pectineus, and gracilis. They're constantly working in ballet, closing the legs, maintaining turnout, and stabilizing the standing leg. Strong adductors help create that zip-up feeling dancers aim for in the inner thighs. Too little strength and turnout collapses. Too much tension and the hips lose mobility. The goal, as always, is balanced strength and control. Deep beneath these larger muscles lie the external rotators, often called the turnout muscles. There are 6 of these: the piriformis, obturator internus and externus, gemellus superior and inferior, and quadratus femoris. They're small but mighty, rotating your thigh outward from the hip and stabilizing the femoral head in the socket. These are the muscles that allow true turnout to come from the hip joint, not the knees or the feet. So every muscle connects to bone through a tendon, which is a tough, flexible band that transmits force into movement. Around the hip, these tendons act like thick cables. For instance, the iliopsoas tendon passes over the front of the hip and can sometimes cause a snapping sensation if it becomes tight or inflamed. The hamstring tendons attach at the sit bones and are especially vulnerable during high extensions or powerful jumps. Keeping tendons healthy through strength training, progressive warm-ups, and proper recovery is key for longevity in dance. Then there are the ligaments, which are the strong, fibrous stabilizers that connect bone to bone. 3 major ligaments surround the hip joint: the iliofemoral ligament, or Y ligament, which prevents hyperextension and helps you to balance an arabesque; the pubofemoral ligament, which limits excessive side movement or abduction, which again is moving away from the midline; and the ischiofemoral ligament, wrapping around the back of the joint to restrict too much internal rotation. Together, these ligaments act as your built-in safety system, keeping the joint stable even when your muscles aren't actively engaged. So why does all of this matter for dancers? Understanding these structures isn't just academic, it's very practical. The hip joint's anatomy sets your range of motion, but your muscles, tendons, and ligaments define how you move within it. When you use turnout, which again is that external rotation at the hip that we see so often in ballet, when you use that turnout correctly, you're engaging your deep rotators and stabilizers to support alignment rather than twisting through your knees or your feet. When you land a jump, your glutes, hamstrings, and ligaments absorb the impact and also protect your spine. It's all about balance, mobility for artistry, stability for safety. If one area is weak or tight, others will compensate, and that's where overuse injuries often begin. A strong, adaptable dancer trains not just in the big, visible muscles, but also in the small stabilizers that keep every joint moving freely and safely. So the next time you're at the bar, take a moment to think about what's happening beneath the surface. The intricate coordination of bones, muscles, tendons, and ligaments working all together to create movement. Your hips aren't just the center of the motion, they're the bridge between your upper and your lower body, the anchor of your balance, and the source of your expressive power. And that wraps up our two-part series on the anatomy of the hip joint. From the bones that give it structure to the muscles that power every développé, arabesque, and plie, the hip is truly the center of movement for dancers, especially when it comes to turnout. Understanding how these muscles and connective tissues work all together helps you train smarter, move more efficiently, and prevent those common overuse injuries. Thank you again for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Ballet Science Podcast.